In this episode, Severe Transformation, a story of how accountability and causation motivated Andre Norman from prison gang boss to ambassador of hope. So there's plenty of rags to riches stories that, while I honor them greatly, I don't think they stand out necessarily. This one just did. Andre Norman. It's not really about his story so much as, again, what I see as this radical transformation. He wasn't just in prison, and maximum security prison at that. Andre ran the prison. He was king of the inmates and ran gang activities from within the prison walls. He was granted somewhat immunity from most of all the rules and regulations by the prison itself, the guards and whatnot. Then on his way to yet another of, I think it was 10 plus attempted murders, he felt a wake-up call and realized he was king of nothing. And this began his journey to educate himself, to work out of 100+ year prison sentence and become the acclaimed motivational speaker that he is today on hope. That's a dramatic life transformation to me, an incredible identity shift. And I wanted to understand the dynamics of his experience. I mean, most of my guests are authors, but I seldom read the books completely. Andre's book, however, which is titled Ambassador of Hope, Turning Poverty and Prison into a Purpose-Driven Life, I read it from cover to cover. His childhood story, I just broke my heart with. And he went from ultimately prison king, literally, to Harvard. But even amongst the success that he pursued, he still had times of struggle. And I dig into his story, and he brought me to these discussions on what he cites like the salvation, really, of accountability in his life. And our propensity as humans to get involved in a pursuit, maybe originally out of a why, but then we get into just the what of it, and we lose the what. I mean, we lose the why of what we're doing. And he shares how he struggled with this and came back to his why. I think you'll find the discussion overall just convicting. I think you'll find it sobering, as I did. You can find Andre at andrenorman.com. Find his book, find all that he was doing. As of the recording, I did it earlier today and had to bump it up because he got called to New York. He lives in Atlanta, got called to New York. There was a riot at a prison. And they call Andre in, again, former king of the prison. They call him in to help find peace and hope and help bring order. So coming up, my conversation with Andre Norman, talking about this radical transformation. And again, the value of accountability and causation in our lives. Let's evolve ourselves today. Andre, looking at your story, obviously an amazing story overall. The place that caught my attention, the topic, the interest that caught my attention, though, was kind of twofold. Such a radical change of identity in some ways. That's what really caught my attention first off, a change of identity, going from here, prison, obviously, to Harvard and whatnot, and some of the doing. And yet, along with that, also some of the aspects of your identity that remained and kind of caused you trouble even when you, quote, made it. And I want to know about the journey. I want to know about how it's unfolded for you. Again, thinking about your own identity. I'll start there. Actually, let me start back. Who was Andre and who is Andre today?
Well, Andre, prior to prison, was just another average kid. I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at academics. I wasn't good at singing or dancing. I was just an average kid who grew up in the city. Bad parenting, bad neighborhoods, challenging schools, you name it, the basic stuff that we deal with in the inner cities for the last 100 years. And I'm just a product of that. And since I couldn't do any of the special stuff that would warrant an adult wanting to come get me, hey, can he play basketball? Can he throw a football? Can he run track? What can he do that make us come get him? Just being ordinary is not enough. And there was nothing there about me that made people say, wow. So I just was left to my own devices. And as a 12, 13-year-old, I don't plan well, don't strategize well, don't have long-term vision. So I just kind of drift. And luckily for me, in my 11th grade year of high school, failed freshman, sophomore, junior year. But in my junior year, I happened into this room by chance, and it was an exchange student program. And the guy running the program challenged me to fill out the application. I said, they'll never pick me. I shouldn't even be in this room. This is an accident. But I filled the application out. I submitted it. He had a saying, don't say no for them. I submit the application. I end up going to the interview. And of the 84 kids in the city of Boston who got scholarships in 1984, I got the first one. And I was listed as the kid with the most potential of anybody in the school building. My superintendent, my principal protested my getting the award. And he said, no way, this kid's going to represent our school. And he told me all the awful, evil things that I were. Then the guy who set it up, the program, came to the school, and we sat there, and the principal cussed us both out. There was no way I was going to represent this school, and how evil and awful I was, and how bad I was, and I was a horrible student, horrible person. And when he finished, the man just told him, he said a few things. One, it's not your money. Two, it's not your decision. Three, he's going. And we said, have a nice day. And we walked out. It was like the first time in my life I remember somebody like standing up against the authority or standing up for me in that way. And
let me ask, Andre, that aspect of you being first on that scholarship list. Okay. I mean, I read your detailed story as a parent, reading about your upbringing. Just it pained me to no end. I mean, I cannot imagine a kid being that neglected, bereft, left on their own. All the things that happened to you. Why? Your early upbringing gives no reason as to why you would end up first on that list.
Well, our president at the time, Ronald Reagan, wanted Black kids to go on this exchange student program. But I guess they sat in the office and said, well, how do we get Black kids to go exchange student and see the world and change their mindsets? And they understood that if you made grades the primary causation for going, Black kids don't out the Asian kids, the white kids, we're not going to win. If it's just strictly on grade merit, then we end up falling to the bottom of the pile because most of us don't outgrade them. So they said no grades could be looked at. You have to interview the person. It has to be a personal decision. You have to look the person in the face, talk to the person, and make a decision based off potential, not based off grades. That's what allowed me to be. I'm failing 3 years straight. I got into the room when I went to the conference, well, the greeting day when it was 64 companies, and the way it worked, 100 kids will come to this thing, or 200 kids come. You are a company, you're the Miller company, you specialize in other part of the world. You interview 20 kids. You interview 30 kids. Then you would make a list from your company. If this kid gets it, I want him, I want her, I want him, and you'd list the names. And every company did that. Then based at the end, they would take the companies who wanted the kids, who was wanted, not just who was in the room. And I was number one on every list.
What?
So I interviewed with all 64 companies, and every last company made me number one on their list.
I mean, you got to have had this question before. I mean, when you look at your trajectory overall, there's just no reason for you to have succeeded. You know, what is it when you look at yourself now? Is there anything you attribute it to say?
I mean, well, this is where I'm supposed to be. If you listen to the stats and you listen to the people in the stands, you listen to all the folks on the sidelines, you end up nowhere. And nowhere is multiple places. I know people in nowhere that's in mansions. I know people nowhere that's running $100 million companies. If you don't learn to believe in yourself, you will end up nowhere, whether it's in a mansion or a homeless shelter. Throughout my journey, I always believed in me. I saw the good in me, even though I didn't understand how to exercise it, how to utilize it, how to make a difference in somebody else's life. I never thought I was a bad person. I never was down on myself. I never hated myself. I was never suicidal or depressed. I was on a bad street, and bad things happen on bad streets, and I participated in a lot of it. But I maintained the core of my mother raised me to be a nice person. My mother and my grandmother taught me integrity. They taught me values. Now, I took those early lessons to the street because that's where I was. I took those lessons to prison because that's where I went. And my mom taught me always be the best. If you're going to be in the room, be the lead. Don't be in the room and be a follower. So when I got to the exchange student program, I went in there and gave it my all. And my all got me #1 ranked kid in the school system in 1984. When I went to prison, I wanted to be the lead. I didn't want to be the guy in the background. So I spent 6 years gang banging as hard as I could until I was a #3 gang member in the state. It cost me 2.5 years in solitary. It cost me 10 more years added to my sentence. It cost me 9 state transfers around the country. It cost me a lot, but I was not taking no for an answer. When I had the chance to become the #1 gang member in the state, that's when I said, I saw it for what it was, the king of nowhere. Then I made the turn.
That's what I want to ask about, because in the latter part of your book, and you then had the opportunity to work alongside millionaires, billionaires, whatnot, and you had the story of the one guy, and you asked him, he said he can afford anything.
That was my guy in Sweden.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He can buy anything. He can do anything. Why the heck is he here with you looking to figure something out? Is there some aspect of, because that line, king of nowhere. So you're king of nowhere in the prison. It feels like you have witnessed a lot of people who are king of nothing and nowhere with $1 billion company, that if you don't come down here and have some aspect of mattering to someone else, it's to some degree, it's a king of nowhere on both sides.
I'm going to give you the model that the best way I can explain to people who don't get it. I call it the Bill Gates model. Bill Gates went to college. He dropped out. He started a company. Him and Paul Allen. They made billions of dollars. After he made billions of dollars, he set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and he goes around. He gives money away by the billions and tries to save the world based on his philosophies. All his friends, the Warren Buffetts of the world, give him money, and they contribute to him, and he goes out and he takes care of the world. Cool. So that's my model. Get rich, get to where you want to be, and then go help. Had he dropped out of college and said, I'm going to go start a soup kitchen or after school program, the world would have lost out. You have to maximize your potential, then leverage that back into what you need it to be. So for me, I just got to a point where I said, I'm the king. I wanted to be the top guy in prison, and it didn't work. So I go around now, since I've been home. I'm working with over $250 billion companies right now. I just left a conference with Dr. Phil, Dave Bach. I need tons and tons of Cameron Harrows, all the top entrepreneurs, Dan Sullivan, Ben Hardy, all the top entrepreneurs in the world are my friends. They aren't just relative people I know. And they look at me and they say, Dre, the confidence that you have is outstanding. The leadership qualities you have, what you project in energy, how did you get there? And how do we get there? Because so many people grow up and they go through life with no adversity, no challenge, no putback, no set downs, no beat downs. So when they're facing adversity now, they don't know if it's really in them to face it. I come from a world of get it right or die. So when I'm faced a business question, I'm faced a life question, I'm facing a personal question, I don't back down because I gotta win. Because in prison, you better get it right or you're gonna die. In the streets of America and the urban side of town, you better get it right or you're gonna die. So you can't run. In the penitentiary, there's nowhere to run to. In the streets in the hood, there's nowhere to run to. So you had to learn to stand up and fight. Well, a lot of people I see now running companies never had a fight in their life.
Yeah.
Not one where their life was on the line, if they did.
Do you look at it? I don't even like the question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. To some degree, I'm not going to cite it as a benefit, but the fact that you had such acute life and death situations that I never have.
Right.
And I wonder often if me over here, just kind of in the land of average, good, nothing terrible, is often a detriment. Things don't get acute enough, and we just sit over here in mediocrity. You had it so acutely that it was probably going to push you one way. Either you're going to end up dead in the gutter or the other way. Is that fair?
100%, 100%. I say to all my friends and all the people who are watching this who say, well, I've never been to prison. I've never looked at a gun in my face. I've never had 10 guys come around the corner with knives wanting to kill me. And I don't want to have that. If that's what it takes to get to where I want to be, I'm cool where I'm at. I'm cool in the middle.
Fair.
You don't have to have lived the life to learn how to project the life. So I do a training. It's crazy. It's called Prison Boss Training, where I teach people like you and others how to have the mindset, how to have the stamina, how to actually start reading people. Because I used to walk into a room and there's 50, 100 guys I don't know who wants to kill me, who wants to rape me, who wants to rob me, who wants to hurt me, who wants to trick me, whatever. I need to figure this out in 30 seconds. So I learned how to read people's emotions, their fears, their judgments, their thoughts, their movements, and I got little to nothing to go on. So you might say one word, you might give one look, you might give one blink. I got to figure it out based off the most minimal information possible. And over 14 years in some of the supermax prisons across this country, they're the most dangerous people in the country, I learned to do that. So I can teach you the system. Like I can teach you Spanish. I didn't know how to speak Spanish. Ahora yo hablo español, no problema, tú sabes, mi hermano. The same way I learned Spanish, I can teach you to read people. The same way I learned Spanish, I can teach you to stand tall. How do you project strength and not project weakness? It's a learned trait. I learned it under extreme circumstances, but I learned it. And now I can teach it. So if you want to learn, call me.
Okay. I want to go back a little bit. Your book was published in 2019. So as you and I are sitting here today, that's what, 6 years ago or so.
About that, yeah.
And let's say, you wrote it before that. So 7, 8 years ago, and you're telling the story of prison to Harvard. You did it. Dream come true in essence. And then you also in the book say, but not everything was perfect. You had a failing marriage at the time. You ultimately ended up going to the Virgin Islands and being solitary for 6 years or so.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about on one hand or one level, massive transformation in what you do and how you think and maybe how you view yourself. And yet what were the threads of dysfunction, whatever, I don't know, you right. Name it how you do, that then kind of took you out. You made it, and yet you were still stuck in some places.
I went from maximum security prison, solitary confinement, to Harvard University. That was my goal. I became one of the top speakers in the world, flying around, getting big checks to get on stages and share my story of triumph and tragedy and success. And so I'm flying to Sweden, I'm flying to Australia, I'm flying to Germany, I'm flying all over the world, and I'm getting, this is a great life. But in that transition and in that rise, I stopped seeing me. When I was a kid, I knew who I was. I knew why I was where I was. When I was in prison, I knew who I was. And I understood that. When I got into the room with all these wonderful people, and it was straight love. But I couldn't resonate. Why am I here? Why do they want me? That was self-doubt, imposter syndrome. Why do they want me in this room? The imposter syndrome in me kicked in, and I couldn't make it make sense. I couldn't justify why these super rich elite people want to be my friends, why these giant CEOs of $100 million companies, billion-dollar companies want to invite me to dinner. I couldn't, because I didn't see myself in that space, so I turned on myself. I'm like, oh, I'm an imposter. If they really knew me, they wouldn't want me here. If they really understood my fear, they wouldn't want me here. If they understood, that's what I started telling myself in spite of what they were saying. I stopped listening to them. And I started listening to the bad things in the back of my head. I got to the point where I just couldn't really function. So my heroes, Michael Jackson and Prince, my heroes, I give you a bunch of them. They were in that same space. I said, I need to stop and go sit down because I don't like what I'm hearing in the back of my head. I don't like the way how I'm feeling. So I said, I'm done speaking. I'm done helping people. I'm done doing all this stuff. Forget about the jets, the planes. People send private jets to me all the time. Send Dre, say, Dre, where's the jet at? I'd have been at Teterboro Airport 1,000 times. I stopped the entire caravan going that way because I wasn't whole. And I went and sat down in a quiet place where nobody knew me. I just sat down. I said, let me find me. Let me find out why I'm doing what I'm doing. What is my purpose? What is my reasoning? And I think that if my heroes, the princes of the world, the Michael Jacksons of the world, and the rest of these people could just go sit down and stop being, because I became the show. And I had to separate me from the show. And to do that, I had to shut the show down. You can't keep performing and find yourself. So I shut the show down. The money, the fame, the dinners, the travel. I went and sat my butt down and said, I need to find Andre. And I did that. And it took me a couple of years. Then I came back. And that's when I reestablished myself. Once I found me again, that was it. Because
would you say that I'm sitting here thinking about it as you talk, that your performance in essence, your drive, your goals, your performance, your success, because that's the term you grabbed onto,
right,
is I want to be a success, that you kind of performed past your core self-image?
yeah. I'm in rooms. I'm sitting in a room with the guy, the CEO of Prudential Insurance. This man makes like $300 million a month or something crazy. I was just in a room with a guy last week. He makes $32 million a month. It doesn't bother me now. So your net worth becomes your personal worth. You know what I'm saying, or the people you're around. I was around all these people, and I'm like, I got to be like them, or what are they? I don't worry about what they're thinking, what they're seeing. Instead of saying, who am I? What do I stand for? Why am I here? My intentionality had got misplaced. I knew why I was in the room early. Then along the way, when the money got big and the dinners got big and the trips got longer, I started losing my intentionality. Like, why am I here? And I started survivor's guilt. There's guys still in prison. There's people still in the hood. There's people starving on drugs. There's people out here struck. Am I really helping them? I got away from who I was. At my core, I help people. When I started going on tours, it was less about helping people and more about me.
So can I say the why is what drove you, but then it just got to be about the what, the performance, and you forgot
Right.
the why. Fair?
The why got lost. When the why got lost, I got separated from my why. And I would say there was a time where my heroes, being my musicians, they played for the love of the game. They played for the love of the music. Then it became a job. Once it became a job, it wasn't fun anymore. It was like, okay, they're going to give me this check. I got to fly to the city. I got to put on this. It became a job. I used to go speak every day at the juvenile center for free. I go speak at the churches for free. I go speak at the high schools for free. I go to the CCD class at the Catholic Church. I go to the synagogues. I got a rabbi. And I speak at all these places from the heart. Once it became a business, it was hard to I'm charging people to talk and I'm helping people. And it just became a disconnect. So I just needed to go back and sit down and regroup and rethink it. And I had a lot of mentors who helped me process it through. So you mentioned John Rulin, John O'Leary. You know what I'm saying? I can give you a ton more. Joe Powers, who helped me to sit down, Michael Burnoff, and just say, take your time. The world's not going anywhere, but we need you to be here. And to be able to walk away for 5 years at the height of my speaking career, it was more important that I be healthy than I be rich. Because I know a lot of rich people who aren't healthy.
Well, again, I think about the king of nothing, the king of nowhere that you talked about, and to question what we're doing. Man, Andre, probably once a month, maybe more than that, I really love the brain exercise that you just kind of talked about, that you were speaking for free at the center, at the church, at the whatever, and to question if the bank account's full, millions of dollars and $1 billion in my bank account, would I be doing what I'm doing today? Would I be living this type of a life? And the ability to say yes to me is everything. And yet I don't know the percentage of people that would say that. It feels like tell me your thought. It feels like if what you're doing today would drastically change if you had all the money in the bank, it feels like we need to get a little serious about what we're doing today and why. Is it just for the buck, for the performance, for the fame?
You have to, I need everybody to ask themselves, what is it you do? I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an entrepreneur, whatever your thing is, I'm a dad. So what is your primary thing? What is your number one thing on the list? Is it money or the thing that you love to do? Is it relationships or the thing that you love to do? So I had to ask myself, am I in this for the money? Which is first, money or causation or helping people? And in the beginning, I was clear. Then as I got further in line, I stopped asking myself, why am I doing this? Why am I showing up? I just started showing up and my purpose went away. So now I got back to, after my sit down, I'm clear. My job is to help people. And I love you. You're a great guy. This podcast ended up bumping into a trip. I'm going to prison today. I'm flying to New York to go to prison. That meant when they said, oh, Dre, we need you to this prison. There was a riot. Some people are hurt. We need you to come help the staff and the inmates and the families. I got your podcast. So I have to say, hey, which is more important, my going to New York to help these people in crisis or doing a podcast that's going to promote me? So I asked my assistant, hey, can we move the podcast time? Because I have to go. And I don't know what the business opportunity was. If somebody's going to watch this, going to give me $100 million. It didn't matter. I'm super clear on what I'm supposed to do when I wake up. Every morning when I get up, I ask myself, who can I help today? And today, I got to fly to New York, and I'll be in prison for the next 2 days. And I'll be there with they're not paying me. I'm paying my own flights, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to help people stay alive. Whether I'm flying to Helena, Montana to help a little white girl who's being bullied, I'm flying to Scottsdale to help some kids who are ODing on fentanyl, or I'm going to South Central to help some black kids who are in gangs. It doesn't matter. Who can I help today? And that's what drives my life. Everything else has to come second.
Talk to me about insecurity. Your book, over and over and over, you talked about it a minute ago with the opportunity to go on this exchange program. The principal of the school didn't want you to. That scenario seems like it happened over and over and over and over in the book, where you had an opportunity, you wanted to do something, and people around you, and often people in authority, did not want that to happen, did not want you to be able to pursue that opportunity. And they could say that it was to protect other people or whatnot, but it didn't come off that way. What I perceived, you tell me if I'm wrong, is so much consistent insecurity. But I'll also take that to you, ask it to you and the prisoners, that it as I read the stories, it feels like exaggerated aspects. This is what I'm wondering, how you see it.
Right.
Exaggerated aspects of this is the human condition and our insecurity, slaves to insecurity, and the things that we do, the dramatic efforts that we go to protect our insecurities. And we're all just walking around. I feel like we're in the most insecure culture ever, but you got to see, I'm asking, feels like the kind of the exaggerated aspect of insecurity.
People want to control you, and they want you to do what they want. We grew up in a life where our parents want us to do what they want us to do. And at some point, if we're lucky, we can stop buying the blue shoes that dad picked out for us. We can stop eating the mac and cheese that mom cooked for us. I can start saying what I like. And in my life, early on, my parents picked my clothes. My parents picked my school. My parents picked my bedtime. My parents picked what I ate for dinner. My parents picked what room I slept in. My parents picked, everybody picked everything. I didn't have a choice. So I grew up in a world of I'm being controlled since birth. So when I went to prison, it was the same thing over again. They tell me when to sleep. They tell me when I can go to the bathroom. They tell me when I can visit my mom. They tell me when I'm going to work. They tell me how long I'm going to work. They tell me I can get rec time and yard time. Control. So I come from a controlled environment. And so now it's like institutionalized, whether it's in your family or in prison, institutionalized is a real thing. And then you start getting locked in. So when I come home, I'm used to somebody trying to take control, and I push back. I learned how to push back and say no. I remember the first time I took my son, not the first, I took my son shopping every year, buy him sneakers. I picked him sneakers that I liked. Then one year we went to the store, we're in Foot Locker. I picked a blue pair of Nikes, handed to him, and he looked at me and he paused. He says, "Can I look at something else, Dad?" I was like, cool. And in my mind, he's going to go get another pair of blue shoes. He came back with some orange, pink zips, the most radical, different than what I had picked for him. Because he was trying to establish himself as his own individual. I don't think he liked the shoes. He just had to get as far away from what I would pick as possible because he was being controlled. And I recognized it. I let him buy the orange shoes. I made him wear them, but he bought them. And we bought them for him because I understood what he was going through in that moment, that the control of your parents or the control of the system or the control of your job, control of your relationship is overwhelming. And if you don't get a grip on who you are, it'll overtake you.
Tell me about that in regards to prisoners. I mean, that's a world I know nothing about.
Oh, prison is shared domination. When you come into prison, it's the strongest wins, the most extreme wins. I learned early, the most extreme person wins. So you got a pen on the table. I said, okay, you got a pen. You got the hat you got on your head. I'm like, yo, Kev, I like that hat. Give me that hat. You're like, no, I'm not giving you my hat. I'll kill you for it. You want to die for that hat, Kev? No, you're going to give me the hat. I got 8 attempted murders in my first 6 years because that was my stance. I got charged 8 times because I'd be like, I'll kill you for it. If you don't want to die, you don't want to talk to me. The extreme wins in prison. So when you come to prison, you want to mind your business. I come to your cell, hey man, I want your TV. I'll kill you for it. You ready to kill me for it? No, I'm taking your TV. I want them sneakers. I'll die and do 100 years, either or, for those sneakers you got on your feet? Are you willing to die or do 100 years for those sneakers you got on your feet? Most people weren't willing to go to the extreme. So I wasn't an extremist coming in, but I learned extreme wins. So I morphed myself into an extremist. And I said, my life doesn't matter. Only did I win this next battle. And some people in contract, I got to win the next contract. I got to win the next thing. It's extreme wins.
Is it, what I'm curious about though, do you relate it? Can we relate it to insecurity? Maybe you're confident.
That's not confidence. That is not confidence. That is just sheer survival. I'm saying, okay. I went into an area, I never tried to kill a person in my life. I never shot or stabbed a person in my life. You put me in the most extreme violent place, and for me to win, I must be the most extreme and violent person. So prior to going to prison, I never shot, stabbed anybody. In prison, I realized to dominate here, not to survive, but to dominate, you must be willing to use violence. If you don't use violence, then you're not going to be heard. Nobody hears you. It's like, what did he say? What did he say? I'm saying, so when Michael Jordan comes down the lane and he rises up, people get scared because they know he's going to dunk on them. I'm saying, another guy comes, I ain't worried about him. You must put fear in people in prison if they're going to respect you. These are the most violent people in the country. They've done horrendous things to other people, and you can't just go boo. Well, you have to show them in real time that you'll take their life or you will hurt them severely if you want them to listen to you and respect you and not attempt to harm you.
Is it, as I look at that environment that you're in, prison, that most people like me, we have no concept of other than what we see in the movies or, read in your book, to look at it, how do you relate it to everyone? How do you, because I'm looking at it going, is it again an exaggerated aspect of this is what happens when you have, like you have a father that betrayed you, that left you, that abandoned you, and the insecurity that you talk about from that? Is it just this exaggerated melting pot of, again, the plight of humanity
is a place
of insecure people?
Prison is a place where you put people who quit on life. Everybody in prison quit on life. Whether their father wasn't there, their mother wasn't there, there was drugs involved, they had bad leadership, whatever it was. I like to say, you can take New York City. It's the lead city in America and the world, and there's 8 million people there. The Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, whatever you want to say. For the amount of people who go to jail, there's 10 times as many people who never go to jail. Grew up in the same community. I grew up in a house of 6 of us. We all didn't go to prison. We had the same parents, the same house at the same time. It was a choice that I made not to want to work hard. It was a choice that I made not to stick it out. It was a choice that I made to take the easy route. So I quit on opportunities. I wish I could tell you the whole world hated me. I was just a poor black kid and they threw us away. There were teachers who tried to help me. There was coaches who tried to help me. I didn't know how to receive the help. So I didn't want to do the work. That's the other part. I didn't want to do the work that it required to get to where I wanted to be. So I quit. And prison is a place full of quitters. People who quit on football, basketball, track, academics. We all had some level of opportunity. And we just didn't want to do the work. So I want you to think, oh, woe was these people. We didn't want to do the work. And the end result is prison.
Okay. So reconcile this, because I think I hear you quitting on life. And yet you went into prison and you worked hard to be the top dog. I mean, I could see somebody going, Andre, if you'd have put that much effort and intent into something over here in the, outside of prison, you'd have been successful. It feels like you're doing the work. Help me understand.
Yeah. No, my mother used to tell me, boy, if you take 10% of your energy and put it in something good, you turn the world upside down. But it's easier. There's no accountability in prison. There's no accountability in the streets. There's no expectations other than negativity in that space. So if I went to the football team, I went to the academics, people have expectations, my grades, my performance. People have expectations, me showing up on time, me being thoughtful, me being reliable. There's zero expectations. There's zero accountability in the street life and prison life. So it's not that I don't have the skill set or the drive. I don't want accountability.
Okay.
And there is none in prison.
Okay. Take that out into the general populace now.
Now I'm out here and I'm cool with accountability. Now I am the same kid who went to prison, the same kid who went to solitary confinement, the same kid who couldn't read and write when he walked in the door is now the same kid who was sitting with presidents. of the country, sitting with prime ministers of countries, the United Nations. You saw it in the book. The UN called me, said, Dre, we have a small problem called terrorism. Can you help us? They call me now, the same kid, because I did what my mom said. I took 10% of that energy I put into negativity, I put it into me to be positive, and the world is standing up. And when I see people on drugs, and I see people depressed, and I see people on the back end of bullying or in prison, it's just that nobody taught them to believe in themselves.
Okay, help me with a correlation I'm interested in.
Cool.
You shared in the book that your focus was on people who came from the lifestyle that you did, came from the life that you did. And specifically, I'm going to relate it to, you
Black
talked
kids.
about, what's that?
I help Black kids.
Yeah, exactly. But, and then you end up over here with the rich white kids, and they're saying, no, we got a dad, but we don't see him. He's
Right.
upstairs doing his thing. And okay, so you saw that they have some of the similar problems with the quitting on life. I mean, we're at a time, the mental health stats here. Let's just talk America. Depression, apathy, even the suicide rates continue to go up. I'm interested in your correlation of people who are quitting on life in the regular populace.
Right. So if I'm a rich white kid living in the suburbs and my dad has a $3 million house and he runs a company and he's doing really well, my mom does whatever she does. She has a degree, but she stays at home. I'm sitting in this $3 million house as a 14-year-old. You know what I say to myself? I got to get one of these. When I get big, I got to get one of these for my family. We have to go on 3 vacations a year. We have to fly private. We have to. And now you have 3 kids. One is a super academic, so he believes he's going to get there. The next one's is a good athlete, so they believe they're going to get there. The third one, not a super academic, not a super athlete. So I'm like, this isn't going to work out for me. So I'm start feeling the weight of being a rich kid. I can't duplicate this. So what do? I self-medicate. What do? I run from the responsibility and the accountability or the expectations that's been set on me indirectly without nobody saying the word. So in my mind, I have to replicate what my parents created. So if I'm a rich white kid, this is too much. If I'm not an academic, if I'm not a really go-getter, and this isn't going to work. There's no middle ground. And so I tap out, and that's when the ones that start getting high, those are the ones that start running away, those are the ones that start hurting themselves because the pressure of trying to buy a $2 million house and feed a family of 4 in the suburbs, and I don't see myself as a great provider, is going to make me quit now. So the correlation between helping white, I started out with poor Black kids. You know why? Is where I felt comfortable.
Sure.
Then I started saying, they say, hey, Dre, there's some kids over here. I'm like, I don't know about no white kids. But I went over there. And lo and behold, they had the same problems. And we ignore and overlook rich white kids because in my hood, where I grew up, there's drop-in centers. There's tons of people who used to be addicts. There's tons of people who used to be in jail. Everybody's experiences. There's all kinds of mentors, direct or indirect mentors around whatever issue I have. You go out to Helena, Montana, you're out there by yourself. There's no drop-in center. There's no YMCA. There's none of that. So if you have a problem, your parents ship you off to Utah for 6 months, and when you come back, they tell you, shh, don't say nothing. So you're forced to live in silence with your pain. So when I started going out there, I started seeing these kids who had no outlet, and their parents had no experience with them or their community to help their kid. My mother would have sold her house and chopped her leg off to help me. And same with these parents in the suburbs, but there's no one they can turn to without embarrassing themselves, shaming themselves, whatever you want to call it, and tell somebody your kid's an addict, your kid's a prostitute, your kid's a bully, your kid's getting bullied. So it's like the cone of silence is so heavy in the suburbs or in these rich neighborhoods that these parents are watching their kids die because they don't want to be embarrassed or they don't know what to do. And there's nobody they can reach out to in that community. So when I go out there, they're like, well, Dre, how are you going to help my kid? I said, the fact that I'm Black, the fact that I'm an ex-gang member, the fact that I look nothing like you creates a pathway to me talk to your kid. Because if I look like you and sound like you, then they're not going to trust me. Because they're like, oh, you're going to tell my mom and dad. So I'm just going to stick with what I know. So kids in these areas need help, need outlets, and stop looking for someone that looks like you to connect to your kid because they see you, unfortunately, as part of their problem.
Okay, take that and go back to your story, especially when you kind of made it, you did the Harvard thing, and now you're kind of bereft and you go off and, kind of sequester yourself, and you attribute coming out of that to people who cared about you and they pursued you. And now you're talking about mentorship and whatnot. Generally, when we think of mentorship, we think about somebody who takes an interest in us and helps give us guidance. But you keep bringing up accountability, and I'm curious about accountability. Take a mentor, take anyone. Is the guidance the greater benefit, or is it also, maybe more so, accountability? And are we, even in our culture today that, we've got stats on, we're more isolated than ever, we're more disconnected than ever, we have shallower relationships than ever. Are we also running from accountability, quitting on life in essence?
The strongest influence you have over the next person is if you're in their life for real, and you're really tied to them. The accountability comes from me not wanting to disappoint you. So I didn't want to disappoint John O'Leary. I don't want to disappoint Rusty Keeley. I don't disappoint Dave Spence. I don't disappoint any of my Tim Allen. Once I got you in my life and we love each other and we're here, I trust you, I believe in you, the biggest weapon or the biggest tool you have over me is disappointment. And you use that disappointment to motivate me to be great. And that's the accountability part. But the accountability doesn't kick in if there's no one to disappoint. As a young man, I had no one to disappoint, so I could do what I wanted to do. Once I had people in my life who could hold me accountable that I didn't want to disappoint, then accountability became real. So a lot of the kids right now, they might not have a great relationship with mom or dad. They might not have a great relationship with their big sister, big brother. So they don't have anyone to disappoint. So getting high is not a problem. Not going to school is not a problem. All these other things become tangible and feasible because there's no one to disappoint. When my son calls me now, he doesn't want to disappoint dad. He wants dad's approval. He wants me to be proud of him. He wants me to speak nice to him. If I take that away from him, his orbit changes and he gets thrown off. And he's trying to get back into his regular orbit so he can be himself. He can't be himself if dad pulls away from him. So the accountability is tied to relationship. And a relationship has to be a loving, supportive one of the mentor. So it would break my heart if John O'Leary called me and says, Dre, I heard you went to this place and you just kicked cans over me. I don't know what to say about that. People called me and I couldn't defend you. I told them I loved you anyways. I can't get on the phone with John with that. I got a guy out of New Hampshire named Deacon John McMillan. Every time he calls me, I think I'm in trouble. It's like, he called, Dre, I need to see you. Oh my God, what did I do now? I did something wrong. I call him like a little kid, like, yo, man, what did I do wrong? He said, you know nothing wrong. I just want to talk to you. And being able to have someone to disappoint kicks into accountability. My number one mentor on planet Earth is named Natan Schaefer. It's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. You read about him in my book. If you want to see Dre look like a 5-year-old, sit me next to Natan. You know why? Because when I'm sitting next to him, I have no worries, no fears, no concerns. He got me. I can sit down and be a kid. I can be just me. But so often we are having to perform, having to project, having to be. We need that person we can sit next to and just be a kid and just be free. That used to be mom. Would
you call him, would you refer it, is it fair to say, unconditional love?
100%. That man came and got me when nobody would come within 100 feet of me, and he taught me how to be human. Responsibility, respect, accountability, I'm saying servanthood. When nobody would come within 100 feet of the dangerous gang leader, this old Jewish rabbi came and said, put his hand around me and said, I'm going to show you how to be human. And he did that. And what he did is he earned my trust, he earned my loyalty, and he earned my respect, and I would never want to let him down.
Is that your muse for who you want to be to others?
100%. If I could be one person, it'd be Natan Schaefer. And he's a Jewish rabbi, and it was like 2 years later, I joined the church. And people came to me and was like, Dre, you can't hang out with the rabbi. I said, why? He said, he refuses to say Jesus is the love of the Lord, and he's right hand of the Father, and he refuses to acknowledge him, all the rest of the stuff. So he's going to hell, according to the Christian doctrine. And you can't hang out with people going to hell because it's just not how it works. So I was like, they're like, we know what we're talking about. We've been reading the Bible for years, and you're new to the Bible, so we just want to put you up on games so you don't get tricked off and lose your salvation. I looked him dead in the face. I said, let me explain something to you. wherever Natan spends eternity, wherever it is, it'd be an honor to sit next to him. And for you two, since you love Jesus so much, I can snap my fingers and I can get you there today. I know people, we're still in prison, fool. Don't forget who I am. I can get you your Jesus today. Do you want to go see Jesus right now? You can be up there with all your houses and hills and farms and dogs and cows and stuff. I can get you there. They're like, nah, Andre. So you said you love Jesus. Let me help you get there. And I told them dudes, I said, don't ever try to pick my friends. I don't care if you read a book 10 years before me. Don't come try to dominate my life. This is a control thing. And I pushed back. I said, listen, kick rocks with that. And oftentimes in religion and in corporate, the person who's been there the longest think that they know the most. And you can't pick my friends from me. You can't pick my mentors. You can't pick the walk that I do. And when they tried that, I told them about themselves. And Natan, I give you a list of people. I am a sum total of all my mentors. And I don't want any one of them to be disappointed, whether they're here or not here. I keep them with me and I respect them and thoroughly. Having that person not wanting to disappoint is huge.
Dre, thank you. Tell me about trauma. Big word, maybe more so today than ever. It's a word we talk about. If you're the next best-selling nonfiction author, so often we're with a psychologist, we're talking about trauma in so many shapes or forms. So here you are, I look at your life and think, it'd probably be easier to make a list of what traumas you haven't incurred in your life. Fair?
For
All
sure.
Right? So to that degree, it's you got an excuse. You got an excuse to be a victim. Now, I don't perceive you as somebody who is downplaying or minimizing somebody else's experience and their own, trauma. However, I'm interested with you being able to viably claim all these traumas and yet not letting them run your life. How do you address other people who are really struggling, being victimized by their traumas?
The trauma gives you a justification not to be great. Your trauma can give you justification not to be accountable. I know people who walk in a room and they'll say, hey, I had a situation, I was at a conference and a lady told me her mother, her father, her sister, her niece were all killed in a home invasion. The guy came in the house, broke in and killed the whole family. She should have been there, but she was on her plane got late or something crazy. So she missed it because she'd have been dead too. And this is why she drinks. And this is why her life is a mess. And this is. I listen. That's her lead. That was her opening is my whole family was killed in a home invasion. And that's why my life is messed up. 99.9% of people stop right there. Oh my God, that's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that. So I pulled her to the side. I said, question. She said, what? I said, were you drinking before your family died? Was your life in shambles before your family died? Were these things out of place before your family died? She said, yeah. I said, well, as bad as that is, that's not why your life's in jeopardy. Your life was out of control, but you now with this thing, you can hold it up. And who's going to challenge somebody whose family died? Who's going to challenge somebody who was raped or molested? Who's going to challenge somebody who's been victimized? If I hold up my victim sign first, how can you hold me accountable for what I'm not doing today? So that's a justification not to be accountable. And when I pulled it to the side, I didn't do it in public. And I said, your family dying is not why your life's out of order. That's just an excuse for you not to get your life in order. And she said, nobody's ever pushed past my trauma to question where I am intentionally. So I have trauma. I can let my trauma live my life, or I can live my life. And if you let your trauma live your life, it's going to be real shallow. It's going to be really, really low. And you can walk into the room and announce your trauma. And the average person will not challenge you beyond your trauma because it seems like a mean thing to do. You have to be really mean and senseless and heartless to say to somebody, hey, I know that happened to you, and I know people who lead with their trauma because they don't want to be accountable. They don't want to push past it. The thing that made you who you are who you are. You're a sum total of all your experiences. You can use them for your better or you use them to your detriment. So what I've been through, whether it's family trauma, watching my mother be beat, having kids throw rocks at me on a bus and call me names, being illiterate, having my dad walk out, these are the things that I can use to either fuel my forward or drag me backwards. It's energy. The question is, my dad walking out is energy. My mother being beat is energy. All these things that happen in my life is it creates energy. Now the question is, am I going to use it for me or against me?
Okay, on that note, a focus of mine, Andre, is personal agency. You can call it ownership, owning yourself. That's really the term we're owning yourself, taking responsibility for everything you do. I want to hear your perspective on it because I'll admit I am sensitive to, I am a 6 foot tall white American male. There's no privilege. I'm at the height of privilege. And so for me to talk about taking ownership of yourself, there's relevance possibly in saying, yeah, Kevin, you've been handed everything on a silver spoon. I can't really deny that to a degree. And yet I still don't see value in a victim mindset as opposed to own yourself completely. So speak to that because you're not a 6 foot tall white American male who pretty much had everything handed to him in a lot of ways.
Right.
But
so
I
my
see you.
son is a 6'1" Black American male that has everything handed to him.
All right.
That's my son. I'm saying that's not me, but that's my kid. But stuff being handed to you doesn't guarantee you to win.
Fair.
I'm saying you having an easy pathway doesn't guarantee you to win. What it might guarantee you is a soft landing place. So if you go off the rails, your parents might have an insurance policy for you. They might be able to send you to the clinic in Utah where ours can't. We go to prison, you go to Utah. But having everything doesn't mean that you win. It doesn't. And oftentimes, when there's no adversity, it doesn't build confidence in the person. Now, I didn't need this much adversity. I didn't need this much confidence.
Fair.
But I'm going to take it because it is what it is. But sometimes you want adversity. My son called me last night and said, Dad, I need $100. I said, no. I said, you're in college to learn how to manage your money and to manage your life. And if you have your allowance, which you get every 2 weeks, if you're going to spend all your money and call me after, then it's not an allowance. And it's no lesson. So I had to tell him no. He's a 6'1" white black kid who has everything given to him. His mom's a doctor. His dad's a motivational speaker. And we've traveled the world. He's in a private college. He's been in private school since birth. So he has to learn adversity. He has to go through some hardships. If he doesn't, I'm going to have a soft young man who's going to get pushed around by his wife and by people at work and by whoever else. And he has to learn how to stand. So the self-accountability, the self-taking ownership of yourself, you have to go through some stuff. And if you're like, well, Dre, how do I do that? I keep saying, I take adults like you to prison, and I'll take you to prison for a day. You're going to go in and you're going to have an experience that you've never had, you've never witnessed. It's going to challenge you. If you're not being challenged, there's no growth. Your muscles, when you go to the gym, when you lift the weights, it's the pressure that creates the growth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't get big muscles by sitting down watching somebody else lift weights. You have to be challenged. You have to be experienced. You have to go through it to get through it. So I say to 6'1" white guys, 5'7" white ladies, or Chinese people, whoever, anybody who hasn't been challenged, you don't know what it's like. You don't know how you're going to respond. And we can do some controlled stuff versus just throw you out into the wild, but then you will find out your breaking points. You'll find out where your heart is, saying where your strength is and where your weaknesses are, and then you can work on those. When I first got to maximum security prison in Pennsylvania, a bunch of people got raped. And I went to the guy and said, yo, why they do that? They said, oh man, that's what they do here. And they gave me, I said, why him? They said, he projected weakness. I said, what's projected weakness? This is how you stand. It's how you look. And they gave me objective, how you shake hands, how you move. I said, I got a lot of that in me. Am I going to get hurt next? So I went, and for the next day, I spent all day trying to get rid of the gillies, the sillies, and the goofies, and the joking, and the looking away. And every single day, I worked on my projected weakness. When I got rid of all my projected weakness, you know what I had left? Projected strength. I got here by default. I was scared to be assaulted, so I spent every single day getting rid of any aspect that would cause me to get assaulted. And when I finally got to the point where it was all gone, all I had was projected strength. But I had to be in a situation where my life was in danger to make me want to get rid of that stuff or take control of that stuff, and I harness it. And prior to that, I'd have just been a silly, goofy kid.
And that feels like the opportunity now to be mature. So to hear this message from you and go, okay, do I have to go to prison? Do I have to have all that stuff happen? Say
No.
no, but we need to at least get that mindset on.
I teach. That's why I teach now. I go inside prisons and I teach mindset. I go into companies. I teach mindset. I go into foreign countries. I teach. It's all about mindset. It's not what happened to you. It's how you see it.
Okay, here's a question for you then. This book, so the Andre I knew before we sat down together today was 6 years ago ish at the end of this book that's over my shoulder here. It's the end of that book. How have you evolved? How has your mindset changed? Because at that time you published the book, you're king of the world, you've arrived. And yet I imagine you look back now and go, oh man, that guy didn't know a lot. What's changed since this book came out? How's Andre evolved? How's the mindset changed?
I've been able to dial in about who I am, and life happens. So my stepdad died 2 days ago. My mom died. My dad died in January. My mom died like a year and a half ago. So grandparents go, your parents, your aunts and uncles go, then you're up next. So in my family lineage, I'm up next. Our generation is up next. So my grandparents are gone. My parents, aunts and uncles are gone. Now it's me and my brothers and sisters and cousins. We're up next. And that's how it works. So I'm like, okay, I got X amount of years left, whatever that looks like. What am I going to do with it? How am I gonna handle this? Am I preparing my son to be okay without me? Am I preparing a legacy that people are gonna remember me for whatever amount of time? What am I doing with my time? Am I just wasting my time? Am I waking up every day and just going through my day to say, hey, I'm just gonna enjoy life, but not create impact? So what I do is I realize that I'm gonna die. And when we die, they put us in a graveyard and they give us a tombstone. I'm gonna write my own it's in my will. My tombstone says 3 things. Harvard Fellow, because I did that. Honorable son, because I went above and beyond. And I freed people. Whether it's freed people from prison, freed people from addiction, freed people from bad relationships, bad situations. So every single day I ask myself, is what I'm doing edifying the 3 things going on my stone? And if it doesn't, I ain't doing it. Is this going to help somebody get free in their mindset? My whole conversation isn't about me, 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 me. It's about how can I help somebody mentally get free and break free and see a different way? So I can say this podcast makes sense. I'm saying, hey, is this going to be something my parents would be proud of? Is this going to be something that my Harvard Fellowship fellows would be like, we can see that in you? So I'm going to the UN to do some work. I'm going to Johannesburg to help them rethink through post-apartheid / post-slavery. How do you incorporate and bring the people forward? You say, I'm in South Africa helping people redesign prisons. I'm in Bahamas helping redesign schools. So are these things that are worthy of Harvard Fellow, honorable son, and freed people? So I have a guiding light for my life, and I measure everything against it. So for me, I didn't have that 6 years ago. I was just, hey, I'm a guy out here making money, flying, giving speeches, writing cool books. I've got clarity on who I am. I've gotten clarity that the end has always been coming. And I've gotten clarity that I have things to get done before I get there.
I don't know how to improve upon the conversation other than end right there. And Andre, we just had, Veterans Day, and we've got people saying to the military folks, thank you for your service. And I found myself just wanting to say, Andre, thank you for your service.
Appreciate you, brother. Let's do it together.
All right, let's do it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for mentoring me today, Andre.
Listen, it doesn't have to end today.
Okay, fair enough. I got a question for you as soon as I end the recording. You ready? All right. Yeah, hey, thank you for this. Well, thanks so much for joining us in this conversation. Again, that's Andre Norman. You can find him at andrenorman.com. And his book that I reference so much of his story is Ambassador of Hope, Turning Poverty and Prison into a Purpose-Driven Life. Till next time, here's to the evolving and transforming